Hello everybody and welcome to the channel Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host, Krabby Terror 8, and here we are in episode 27 of the Investigator Games, and this is a real milestone because this will be the last time we will be playing The Gathering in quite a while. So it's with some nostalgia and a tear in my eye that we say goodbye to The Gathering, at least until another lot of investigators come along. And we embark on a new journey starting next time in the Midnight Masks, and I'm looking forward to that very much, and I know from some of the comments that people are looking forward to that as well. I'm sure many of us are heartily sick of doing The Gathering. It's a great introductory scenario, though. It still has a special place in my heart. It's the first one that I played, but I have played it quite a lot of times and probably ready for a bit of a change. So here we are with Diana Stanley, the redeemed cultist, as we can see here, with a knife in one hand and a candle in the other, ready to take on the world and the Silver Twilight Lodge. So, we'll get into Diana's deck and some other bits and pieces about Diana. But before we do, I had the good fortune of sitting down with Diana in the green room before we started to have a little bit of a chat to her. And I was looking forward to it because she arrived, she was very neatly dressed, very professionally dressed in office attire. And I thought we would have a good chat in the green room. But things didn't quite go quite the way that I thought they would. So, we were chatting about how things were going and how she thought she was going to go in the Investigator Games. And she said, well, she thought that she had a pretty good chance of doing okay in the Investigator Games. But she said that Preston Fairmont is a real problem. He's a snake and he's not what he seems. I'm like, oh, really? So I questioned that, and then she got really angry with me. What's he gotten? He's gotten to you. He's paid you off. You're one of them as well. And round she went, accusing me of being part of the Silver Twilight Lodge. So I spent about 10 minutes, convincing her that I had nothing to do with the Silver Twilight Lodge, that Preston Fairmont hadn't paid me off or anything like that. And still didn't believe me. It didn't matter what I say. In fact, the more I tried to defend myself, the worse things got, until the only way we seemed to find a way to resolve that was that she shook my hand in some strange way, and because I didn't react to however she shook my hand, she seemed to calm down and apologized and then stormed out of the green room. And as you can see, she's there in the study waiting for the game to start. She's pacing around in her robe. She's put a robe on over her business attire, and the crowd's just coming in and settling down. Now, I should say, I'm assuming everybody knows what the Investigator Games are. I should probably just explain, maybe if this is the first time you're watching this, the Investigator Games is like the Hunger Games. So what we've been doing is we've been taking each investigator and running them through the Gathering, and depending on how they do, they end up in a league table like this one. And each investigator gets points based on their experience points, and we can see them all ranked here from top to bottom. And we can see that some of the investigators have done very well. Safina, for example, has done very well, and others like poor old Calvin, not so well. And it's based on the experience points through victory points and how many turns it's taken. Last week, as we can see here, it was the turn of who did we do last week? Jeez, so much has happened. I can't even remember. Yeah, it was Rita. She ended up about 13 on the table, the middle of the table. So she did okay. She got delayed somewhat. She started very fast. So it'd be interesting to see how Diana goes this time. So, and I should say spoilers, if you are new to the Gathering, you are new to Arkham Horror the Guard game. If you are new to, I will be using some of the Circle Undone cards. investigator cards, obviously, then please go and look at other videos on how to play. I'm assuming you know how to play the game reasonably well. So here we go. We have a look at Diana Stanley and her stat line. She's one of these investigators that starts with one stat line that's very low. So she's 333 on her intellect and her fight, strength, and her agility, but she's only a 1 in willpower, which is a very strange stat line to have, because you would think, being a sort of in the mystic realm of an investigator, usually their stat lines are very, very high. So the fact that hers is so low is immediately very strange, and the reason for that is because what happens over time is she builds that up. So she gets +1 willpower for each card beneath her. Now, she starts with no cards beneath her, so she starts on a 1 willpower, which means she's not really much good at things like casting spells or anything willpower related. But basically what happens is there's a reaction trigger after a card you own cancels or ignores a card effect or game effect. If there are fewer than 5 cards beneath Diana Stanley, place that card face down beneath her. You draw a card and you gain 1 resource, and you can do this once per phase. So this effect, with the cancellation effect, as you can see, there's a number of cards in her deck that allow her to do that. If she draws her Elder Sign, she gets +2, but she can choose a card beneath her and you can add it back to your hand. So you can recycle that card essentially, which is quite a nice effect as well. So, and I tip my hat here to Man from Lang, Whisper in the Darkness, or is it Whisper in Darkness? I always forget. But he did a very nice video, which I'll leave a link to in the notes, about Diana Stanley, because essentially it's one of those things where Diana gets stronger as she moves through the scenario, as you cancel cards, and that willpower goes up. So you start relatively weak and you get stronger and stronger as you move through. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic. Very nice reaction trigger though, because not only do you put that underneath, but you get to draw a card and gain a resource as well in that way, but it's only once per phase. But there are lots of phases, which also means you can do that in the Mythos phase, for example. It's not just a investigation phase thing in that way. So if we have a look at her cards, you'll see there's lots of cards that do these cancellation effects. Now, she's got a couple of weaknesses. We'll look at those first. So her signature weakness is Terrible Secret, which essentially is one of these things that sort of impacts that ability to have cards underneath. So if there are no cards beneath Diana Stanley, you just shuffle it back into your deck. Otherwise, for each card beneath, you must either discard that card or take a horror, and that can't be cancelled. So this is a card that essentially will punish you for having those cards underneath Diana Stanley, but you've got a decision. You can discard them or you can take a horror. Essentially would mean you're sort of starting again. So it's really kind of balancing out how much horror you're prepared to take. And she's got reasonable sanity and strength with a 7 of each, so that's something. My random draw was Hypochondria, which incidentally is the standard weakness in the League of Extraordinary Investigators. I don't know if any of you have been following that, but that's the standard weakness in the League that we chose. So this is the one I drew here. And also there she has a signature asset, which is the Twilight Blade. Fight, you can use willpower instead of strength for this attack. You may play or commit events and skills beneath Diana Stanley as if they were in your hand. As an additional cost to play or commit a card in this way. Exhaust Twilight Blade. You cannot trigger Diana Stanley's reaction ability while playing or committing a card in this way. So, it's quite a nice effect there. So you can play or commit events or skills beneath Diana Stanley as if they were in your hand, and as an additional cost to play or commit a card, you need to exhaust Twilight Blade. And then in this deck we have some cancel cards as well. So we have Deny Existence, which allows you to discard, you know, when you can play this as a fast play, when an encounter card or an enemy attack, that's specific, encounter card or enemy attack will cause you to do one of the following: discard cards from your hand, lose resources, lose actions, take damage or take horror. You can ignore that aspect of the effect. So one of the following, you have to choose one. So the other aspects resolve normally, but that allows you to then put that under you as one of your cancel effects. So there's a couple of Deny Existence. There's also Eldritch Inspiration. So this is where you play a spell when you resolve an effect on a mystic card that triggers due to the skull or something like that, or the tablet or whatever it may be. You can cancel that effect. Or if you want to, you can resolve it an additional time. But the cancellation effect obviously allows you to put it underneath as well. So there's two. Here's another cancellation effect. Fast play during your turn, attach it to an investigator. When you are dealt damage or horror, discard Delay the Inevitable and cancel all the damage, which is quite good with the Ghoul Priest with Retaliate, because you can put, if you can delay the inevitable, it means you won't get hit. Kind of works a little bit like dodge in that sense, which fast play, when an enemy attacks an investigator, you can cancel that attack. The difference between delay the inevitable is you can keep it on you, but you have to pay 2 resources to keep delay the inevitable going. And then finally there's Ward of Protection as well, which cancels a card's revelation effect. You take a horror, and that would then go underneath Diana Stanley. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 cards that allow you to do that in this particular deck. So lots of opportunity for cancellation. And I should add, I nearly forgot, you start with this card in your hand. It doesn't seem to be coming up. Oh, it's coming up over there. There. Ooh, no. Let's move this over here for a second. Here we go, Dark Insight. You start with this in your hand, and it doesn't count to your first hand size. So you can draw 5 cards and have this. Fast play, when an investigator at your location draws an encounter card or a weakness, you can cancel all of that card's effect and shuffle it back into the deck. So it's another cancellation. A counter card or a weakness in that way. So there's another one. So there is another cancellation card. And that one's rather nice because, like I said, you get to have it in your hand right from the start. So it's almost like a guaranteed at least one card under you fairly early on in the piece, should you want to do that. Okay. And apart from that, this actually, for a Fantasy Flight standard deck, it's actually quite strong because you've got those effects, but we've also got lots of weapons. We've got a couple of knives. We've got a 45. We've got a machete. We've got an overpower. We've got a guard dog. We've got a beat cop. We've got a vicious blow. We've got a dynamite blast, and we have shriveling. So we have lots and lots and lots of ways of dealing with enemies as well, which is fantastic. So it's not short of those. In addition to that, it's got a couple of flashlights. It's got evidence, which is about, discovering a clue. It's got the good old Drawn to the Flame, which is always handy down in the cellar. And it has this new card from the Circle Undone, Interrogate. Choose a humanoid enemy, and of course ghouls are humanoid enemies. You can test 3 fight. This test gets plus X difficulty, where X is the chosen enemy's damage value. If you succeed, discover 1 clue at your location and 1 clue at any other location. So, you can imagine you're in the attic and a ghoul minion pops up. You could actually end up with, if you've been down to the cellar, I suppose, you could use it that way. So again, it could work in the Gathering, but it's probably less likely to work in that way because the Gathering is fairly limited in what you can do, and it's unlikely you're going to run down to the cellar, reveal it with the clues, and then run up to the attic. So whilst it seems nice in theory, it's like Connect the Dots was a similar thing. For the gathering, it's not such a positive idea. Also works better in multiplayer, obviously, where you have more people uncovering locations and clues, whereas in solo, it's much more a stepped thing where you're uncovering as you go. So again, maybe a little less effective. And on top of that, we've got a bunch of other spells. We've got things like Scrying and Blinding Light. And we've got the good old Arcane Initiate, which is great for getting spells, and the Holy Rosary, which is nice, particularly when Diana's fairly low on willpower. So there's lots and lots of different ways of dealing with spells in this deck as well. So I think it's a pretty strong deck. So I think Diana Stanley is right to feel a little bit positive about how she's going to do in the gathering. It's a reasonably well-rounded deck with lots of strong cards, so there's no reason why it shouldn't do reasonably okay. Although with the Arkham Horror, the card game, you never know how things are going to go. So I think that's gone through the cards. So why don't we close and shuffle up this deck? And we're here in Octagon, ready to go. We have all the cards on the table. Of course, in the gathering, you wouldn't have all of the cards on the table, but in this particular case, just so it's easier, we've put them all out. But we're here in the study with our 3 actions. Diana is standing up and pacing around, and the crowd is getting very excited. So I think we're about ready. I think we're set up and we're about ready to go. We just need to read out the act and the agenda deck, and then we can draw our hand and get going in the not the final time we'll ever do the gathering, but probably for a while. Okay, so let's read the agenda and the act and what's going on. It's late at night. You're holed up in your study researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlour down the hall. At the same time, you hear dirt churning as if something were digging beneath the floor. Dun, dun, dun. And trapped. As you leap to investigate, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. So there we are. That's the act in the agenda deck. So really all that's left now is Diana's ready to go. The bell goes in the Investigator game. She waves at the crowd. The crowd goes wild. And she's ready to go. There's all that's left now is to draw a few cards. So let's see. What do we want? I already shuffled them up. I'll give them another shuffle. So we are a 3 investigation. So it would be good to we can probably get by okay in the study in the attic, but getting a something for the cellar would be good. Getting a weapon on board would be good. Getting at least one other cancellation card would be good to get our willpower out, and I wouldn't mind the Holy Rosary as well. I think if we can get all of those things, I think we're in a good place. So let's see what we get. So the first card is the machete. Perfect. Fantastic. Second card is, Delay the Inevitable. That's a cancellation card, but probably one we wouldn't use in the early stages. We get Shriveling. Wow. Okay. Fantastic. Shriveling and machete. And we get Deny Existence. That's great. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for our 5th card, we get a knife, which is good. That's sort of a basic weapon. So I'm looking at this. We've got a Deny Existence. So I'm going to put this over here. I am going to keep that because those are our cancellation cards. That's good that we have the machete. And it's also good that we have Shriveling. So those are both good cards. Now, one of the problems with Diana Stanley in the early stages is if she gets a Crypt Chill, you're pretty much going to fail it. So the problem is if you have both of these cards out, and then you go ahead and fail the Crypt Chill, you're going to be in all sorts of bother. So what I'm thinking is I want to keep the knife, mainly because I don't want to lose the machete, and I want to have a weapon in the early stages, at least until our willpower gets up where we're fairly assured of being able to deal with it. Although we do have deny existence that will cause you to do 1 discard cards from your hand. So, I mean, we do have a way of dealing with that. So maybe I'm getting a little bit overly worried about that. I probably am, actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck these 2 in because I don't feel they're so necessary, and draw 2 more cards. So we get the interrogate card, and we get the drawn to the flame. Well, that's perfect. So that we're going to be keeping for the cellar, definitely. So I'm feeling pretty happy about all this. The only thing is I didn't talk about emergency cash, but one thing about Diana's deck is it's quite resource intense. So with lots of things like, like these 2 cost 6 in and of themselves. So it will probably be nice to get something like emergency cash, because we're going to be getting a little bit cash strapped as we go. But I'm pretty happy with that. That's a pretty good start. So let's put these back in and let's shuffle them up. And we are ready to go in the Investigator Games. Crowd goes wild. Okay. So what are we going to do? Well, I think the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to pay 3. 2, 3. And we are going to bring out the machete, because shriveling is not much use to us at the moment, quite frankly, because we're only 1 willpower. So the shriveling is going to be of very little use until we get to the latter part of the game, and our willpower is much higher. So we'll bring out the machete, so we have a weapon. That's the first thing we're going to do. And then the second thing we're going to do, I guess, is we're just going to try and investigate the study. We should flip it. There we go. Which is a 2 shroud location, and we are a 3. So we're on a -1 or better. Now I could commit interrogate to that. I don't know that I'm going to use interrogate, because first of all I need a ghoul, and then the other thing is it's discovering a clue at your location and any other, and that's not really going to work. So what I might do is I might just see how we go straight up, and if I don't get a clue the first time, then I might commit this. So what we're looking at for our second action is an investigation, and it's a 2 versus a 3, so we want a -1 or better. Chaos Bag gives us a +1, so that's an easy clue. That clue, we were literally standing on it, and there was a great big note on it saying clue. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Yeah, maybe we should just commit it now, because I'm not sure I'm going to use it. Oh, I'm going to do that. Okay, let's do this. Otherwise, we're tempting fate. So we're now a 4 versus a 2. So our third time is -2 or better. Investigation, and Chaos Bag gives us an auto fail. Of course it does. Thank you, Chaos Bag. So there we go. So that was our first turn in the Investigator game. So reasonably successful. We spent 3 resources of our 5 and brought out the old machete. And we're not worried about Crypt Chill, because we can always deny existence if we need to with the Crypt Chill. We then investigated straight up, and we got a +1, and then we committed a card, and we got an Elder Sign. I wish. We got an auto fail tentacle, so that's not going to happen. And that's the end of turn 1. So we're off and running. So we move into the enemy phase, or the anima phase, as I like to call it, and there are no enemas to speak of course. So we move into the upkeep phase, and we get Delay the Inevitable. This card is just not going to go away. So that's okay. We can, keep this for when the Ghoul Priest turns up, or indeed if some of the other nastier creatures turn up, we might use it for that. Yes. So there we go. That's the upkeep phase. So we move into the Mythos phase. So the first Doom is down on the table, and now it is time to draw the encounter cards. I'm just going to shuffle these up. I think they're already shuffled, but I'll shuffle them up anyway. And let's see what the first encounter card is that we get. And the first it's not working. Let's try it again. And the first encounter card we get, of course, is a Ghoul Minion. A Ghoul Minion. There we go. Okay. Now, fast play when an investigator at your location draws an encounter card or a weakness. We could cancel that card's effects. An encounter card, but that's an effect. So Ghoul Minion doesn't really have an effect, it just appears. So I'm not sure that would work. And that doesn't work either. So, well, it's a good job we got the machete out then, isn't it? Because exactly for this situation. So there we go. Good old Ghoul Minions appeared. Hello? Oh, what's that knife? So there we go. So that's the end of the Mythos phase. So we move into the second investigation phase and we put 3 actions onto Diana. Now what we want to do is really want to get out of the study as soon as we can, but we need an extra clue first. So let's fight this. Ghoul Minion. So we are a 3. We are a 4. Ghoul Minion is a 2, so that's a -2 or better, and we do 2 damage because of the good old machete. Where would we be without the good old machete? All right, so we need a -2 or better. So we're on a 4 versus a 2. Chaos back. So the first thing we're going to do is fight. We're going to smash this Ghoul Minion with a machete. Chaos Bag gives us a -2. That is a success. 4 versus 2. And the Ghoul Minion is dead. So that's the first action. Second action, we're going to straight up 2 versus 3. Investigate the study. Chaos Bag gives us a skull, which is a success because there are no ghoul enemies at the location, so we get the second clue, which is fantastic. So it's really down to what we do for our third action here. So we could either, well, what we could do is we could spend the clues and get ourselves up into the attic. And I'm thinking we've already been a little bit delayed, so I'm feeling that that's a good thing to do. It is the Investigator Games, and the faster we do things, the better. As we know, Ashcan Pete finished this in 8 turns. I'm not expecting that Diana will do it that fast, but, you know, got to be in it to win it, so let's go ahead. So let's throw in the 2 clues, and let's flip the trapped and read it out. You notice that the edges of your newly purchased rug are tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, that's odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see a door leading out of your study. Oh. You slowly turn the knob, and the door swings open, revealing the hallway below. You jump through the doorway, landing on your feet on soft dirt. The door to the study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. So here we go. We're going to move into the hallway. Oops. Boing. Move into the hallway. We can get rid of the study. Doink. Yeah, there was no enemies in the study anyway. We can flip the hallway. Doink. But there's no clues in there. And remove the study. Yeah. So we can... and we're into the barrier. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlour. As you move towards it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or the attic that can help. Help dirt incinerate? I haven't thought of that before. I'm just reading it now. Watching horror as the dirt incinerate. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or attic that can help. What? Stop dirt incinerating? Anyway, when the round ends, investigators in the hallway may as a group spend the requisite number of clues to advance. So there we go. So for our third action, we're going to take a trip up to the attic. La-di-da-di-da, up to the attic. Flip the attic, doink. 2 clues in the attic, 1, 2. And we've seen all kinds of horrors as Diana Stanley, but nothing worse than the bloody carcass, apparently, of a malformed beast. That's just too much. There we go. So we take a horror. Yep, there we go. So there we go. That was a fairly successful round all round. So first of all, we killed the Ghoul Minion with our machete. We just sliced him apart. It was easy. We then successfully got the second clue, and we moved out of the study and into the hallway, and then we used our third action to get up to the attic, and found that a bit horrifying, and that's where we stand. So we are now ready to move on. We haven't used any of our cancel cards yet, but I'm sure the opportunity will come up shortly. then we can start building our willpower. So we move into the enemy phase, and there are no enemies to speak of. So we move into the upkeep phase, and we get the knife, which, you know, we've got the machete, so I'm not sure we need the kniffy, but anyway. So that's that, and we can move into the good old mythos phase. So that's 2 doom. That will flip next time. So it's now time for another encounter card, and this time we get, well, our friend Cryptchill has arrived. Hello, it's Cryptchill. So we have a choice here. We can either use Dark Insight, draws an encounter card and cancel that card effects and shuffle it back into its deck. Right, so you can do that. Or we can do this, which is fast play. When an encounter card or encounter will cause you to do one of the following: discard cards from your hand. Well, we haven't done that yet, but we would fail Cryptchill, obviously. You ignore that aspect of the effect. So, and that doesn't cost anything. So, of the 2, that's probably the preferable one, because this one would cost us 2 to use. And this one also works on weaknesses, so that might be worthwhile keeping. So the first thing is that we should just test Cryptchill, of course. We have to do that. So it's a 4 versus a 1. I'm not going to commit any cards to it, so it really is a -3 or better. And if we fail, you could discard 1 asset you control. Whoa, hold on. Discard cards from your hand. Hold on. Fast play: when an encounter card or attack will cause you to one of the following: discard cards from your hand, lose resources, lose actions, take damage, take horror. That's actually not what's going to happen. So actually, we do need to use this. Cancel all of that card's effects. So fast play: when Investigator the location draws an encounter card. So it's when you draw it. This is quite a tricky thing, this Diana Stanley thing. So I just realized it's a good job I reread it again, because here it's discarding cards from your hand. And I'm assuming that doesn't include things that are out on the table because they're not in your hand. So we really do need to use this one. So we do need to spend 2. Yep. So we spend 2 and we cancel. So we'll put that under here. Yep. So we've cancel all that card's effects and shuffle it back into the deck. So it actually shuffle into the deck. So it's gone back. And because we've done that, after a card you own cancels or ignores a card effect or game effect, if there are fewer than 5 cards beneath, place that card face down, draw a card and gain a resource. So we draw a card, we get the 45, and we get a resource. Very nice. Okay. And now we're at 2 willpower. Okay, fantastic. And now I don't feel so bad if we lose the machete. We've still got shriveling and the 45, so it's not the end of the world if it comes back again. But there we go. Yeah. Enemy attack. Okay. Alrighty. So that's the end of the mythos phase. So we now move into the investigation phase. We put 3 actions onto Diana. And here we are. So what should we do now? So the Cryptchill might come back. So is it worthwhile putting the knife out just in case so we can lose the knife? Is it really worth doing that? Because we've got the 45 and we've got shriveling, so maybe we don't need to. What's the chance of? I should just shuffle this up again. What's the chance of Cryptchill popping up again? Probably fairly low, so I think we're okay. So what I might do is just focus right now on getting these clues. I don't need to bring out shriveling yet. There's no need. I don't need to do that. I could waste a go playing knife. And I don't have enough resources for the 45 at the moment anyway. So I think we just investigate straight up. 1 versus 3. So our first action is to investigate. 1 versus 3. So a -2 or better, and we get a skull. Fantastic. And then we'll do it again. 1 versus 3, minus 2 or better. And we get another skull. That's 3 skulls in a row. That's weird, isn't it? Skull, yep, skull. There we go. So there we go. So we draw another, we get the other clue, and that's our first victory point. Fantastic. Crowd goes wild. So we've got 1 action left. So we've got 2 things. We could either draw from our deck, or we could take a resource, or we could play the knife. So we have 3 sorts of choices. I think, or we could move back to the hallway and get going. I think I might do that because, you know, speed is of the essence and all that. So we'll move back to the hallway. There we go. So a couple of things. We successfully investigated the attic, and then we move back to the hallway. So pretty good round all round. Fantastic. Okay, so let's move forward into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. So we move into the upkeep phase and we get the flashlight, which normally would be really great, but actually we don't need it because we've got the good old drawn to the flame. And these 2 cards can work quite nicely together because you can draw into the flame and then you can deny existence something which is going to affect you. So quite good. Okay, so we move into the mythos phase. This is now at 3 dooms, so this will flip. And we can read this out. Your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It's almost as if you've been transported somewhere else entirely. Although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. Oh, that's that cloak, the ermine cloak that I lost. I wondered where that had gone. Ah, there's my other knife. Dagger, ritual dagger. I wondered where that had gone. Ah, my scented candles. I wonder where they'd gone. The lead investigator must decide either each investigator discards a card at random from their hand or takes 2 horror. I think we will take the 2 horror, I think. Because I don't really want to lose any of these cards. They're rather nice. So we'll take the 2 horror and hope that's okay. Rise of the Ghouls. We're on to Agenda 2A. The floor beneath you is giving way and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels trying to find a way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do. Indeed. Okay, so it's time to draw an encounter card. And what do we get? We get, rats. Rats. Oh, no big deal. Okay, easy. All right, so we go from the mythos phase into the investigation phase. 3 actions on to Diana, and the first action, of course, is to dispatch with these rats. So we are a 4 with our machete. We're going to machete them to death. 4 versus 1, minus 3 or better. Chaos bag gives us a 0. Rats dead. Easy. Next action is to go down into the cellar. Plonk. Plonk, plonk, plonk. And unfortunately, as we're going to the cellar, our robes are a little bit long. We trip on our robes and go tumbling down into the cellar, and we take a damage. Ouch. There we go. It's damage. It'd be nice to get some kind of ally as an extra horror soak, but anyway. So we kill the rats, and we move down into the cellar. So I guess the third thing we're going to do, we might as well do it now, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't, is to play Drawn to the Flame. So we play Drawn to the Flame, draw the top card of the encounter deck, and it is Dissonant Voices, Still Lives. Now, we could cancel Dissonant Voices, I think. Lose actions? Not really, we're not losing actions, are we? Not taking damage, we're not taking horror. And it's not a big deal because we're not really playing anything anyway. So we'll put out Dissonant Voices. And we get 2 clues. Yeah. Wow. Just like that. How fast was that? Wow. It's only turn 4 and we've already got... And the crowd goes super wild. Dan Stanley's moving so fast. It's breakneck. Fantastic. So there we go. So we started in the hallway. We killed the rats. We then moved down into the cellar. We took a damage. And then we played Drawn to the Flame, and we got 2 clues, but we ended up with dissonant voices in the process. But that's all right. It will go away at the end of the round, so it's all good. Okay, so we can move straight into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of, so we move into the upkeep phase, and we get the old Vicious Blow, which is very nice. We can really bring the pain to the Ghoul Priest with a Vicious Blow. So there we go. End of the round, so we get rid of dissonant voices. That's all good. And we move into the turn 5. We move into the first Mythos phase of Agenda 2A. And it's time to see what the encounter deck has for us. And the counter deck has for us Ancient Evils. Can we use this on Ancient Evils? Discard cards, lose resources, lose actions, take damage, or take horror. No, we can't. So there we go. That's another doom on the agenda. Okay. So the agenda's determined to keep pace with us at the moment. So here we are. We are in the cellar. So what do we do now? Because I feel like, so with Vicious Blow, we can do 3 points of damage to the Ghoul Priest, but we're only playing at a 4. I mean, that would make us a 5. That could do more, but that's a fight. So we've got a fair few cards to kind of help, but I don't feel like we're totally set up for the Ghoul Priest, to be honest. Have we got enough things to get Leader Chandler on board? Because we're a 3, 4. Not really. It's not really going to be that. 4. So we're not really. That's really not really an option. So we really need to improve what we have set up and set out to really help. So yes. So here we are. We're in turn 5. I don't feel like we could take on the Ghoul Priest particularly successfully. So we put 3 actions onto Diana. Oh, we haven't moved into our phase. So maybe I should just start drawing a few cards and see what we get. So first action is to draw a card, and we get Water Protection. Second action is to draw another card, and we get another knife. Well, that's good. And then third action is maybe we should get a resource. Let's get a resource. So that was our turn. So I feel like it's helped in terms of we've got more fight down, or we've got more ways of using fight pips. But I'm really, what we need to do is we need to maybe cancel some things so we can get our willpower up, and then we can play Shriveling next turn, and then we'll be in a much better position, I think. So we move into the enemy phase. There's no enemy to speak of. So we move into the upkeep phase. We get our Twilight Blade, which I'm not sure we need is going to be that helpful, but it's got fight and willpower pips. What's the most? Probably the flashlight is the one that we don't need. So we get rid of the flashlight. Yes, and we move into the Mythos phase, and it is now time to see what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has, Grasping Hands. So here we can use one of these. Fast play when encounter card or an enemy attack will cause you to do one of the following, take damage, we can ignore the aspect of that effect. So we could use Ward of Protection, which would cancel it effect and then take a horror. But I'm actually thinking we might see whether we would fail, and then we can use Deny Existence. So let's see how we go with this. So basically, if it means we take damage, we would ignore it. So it's a 3 and we're a 3. So let's see how we go with the we get an auto fail. So there you go, 3 versus 3. Now normally we would take 3 damage, but we are going to fast play Deny Existence. So we ignore that aspect of the effect. So that goes underneath the deck. So we can move that, send that to the back. That effect, it doesn't get, you just ignore it. So it just goes. And because we did that, we draw a card and a resource. So we get Prophecy. If there are 3 or more Doom in play, Prophecy gains a wild card. Well, there's 6 or more Doom. Well, that could happen in the next phase, but we're not going to get that far. So it's a double wild card, and we get a resource. Very nice. So that's fantastic. Pity we don't have what's the card? Training, physical training. That would be quite a nice thing to get. So there we go. I think I'm feeling like we really are now in a position where we can take on the Ghoul Priest if we have the Shriveling on board as well. Oh, so now this is now, our willpower is now 3. So we now have a willpower of 3 because we cancelled another card. Okay, so there we go. That's the end of the Mythos phase. And so we move into the investigation phase, 3 actions onto Diana. So I'm thinking that the first action is we move, because I think we're going to do this, we're going to move into the hallway as the first action. The second action we are going to do is to spend 3. 1, 2, 3, and bring out Shriveling with 4 charges. Yep, that's our second action. And for our third action, what are we going to do for our third action? Fast play. Only during your turn, attached to an investigator. So that's a fast play. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to fast play and attach that. So there we go. That's now attached to us. If we're dealt damage or horror, we can discard, delay, and cancel that damage. So in fact, if the Ghoul Priest actually does retaliate, that actually ends up underneath as well. So that's quite nice. So that was a fast play, so we still have 1 action left. What do we want to do with our final action? I guess we'll draw a card, I suppose. Let's draw a card, and of course, we get Hypochondria. Add hypochondria to your threat area. Well, basically, if we take 1 or more damage, take a direct horror. Well, I'm not planning on taking any more damage and things, so I'm not sure. That was unfortunate that we got it, but we got it. I'm just going to live with it, and hopefully we don't need it. Can I cancel it? No, I can't. I don't have any way of cancelling it. So there we go. That's the end of our phase. So basically we moved. We brought out Shriveling. We fast played Delay the Inevitable, and then we drew our Hypochondria, which basically, if we take 1 or more damage, we take a direct horror. So there we go. So we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. So we move into the upkeep phase, and we get too little, too late evidence. So I mean, we could use it, I suppose, to get Leader Chandler on board, but I don't don't like those odds now. So now we're at the end of the round. So we're going to put in the 3 actions, and it's only turn 6. My goodness. So we can flip this. Using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders as it consumes the ice, then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking the passage into the parlour has vanished. Reveal the parlour. Set aside Lee to Chandler in the parlour. Oh, hello, Diana. How are you? Oh, I do like that robe. It looks very, very smart. Oh, and candles. Very nice. Very, very nice. Have you got any Enya music? And I guess we put the Ghoul Priest in the hallway. Hello. Oh, a hypochondriac. How nice. So there we go. That's ready to roll. So we're all ready for the to take on the Ghoul Priest here, I think. So we move into the Mythos phase. There are 4 Doom on Rise of the Ghouls. And so let's see what the good old encounter deck has for us. And I'm probably going to use Ward of Protection here because I want to get my willpower up again. So the encounter card is, yes, Rotting Remains. So we don't want Rotting Remains. So we are going to spend 1. We're going to bring out Ward of Protection, non-weakness treachery card. There it is. Cancel that card and then take a horror. So we cancel that, which means that also goes underneath. So we send that to the back. So that's another one. So we now have a willpower of 4 here, and we draw a card and gain a resource. So we draw a card. Very nice, fearless, and we get a resource. There we go. Very, very nice. Oh, and we take the horror, of course, for using that. So our horror goes up. Doink. And I just realized because we have done that, I think when you are dealt damage and or horror, discard, delay the enmantle, and cancel all damage and horror just dealt. So I don't take the horror, and I cancel, and that goes underneath as well, but we don't get the double effect of drawing. So how many we've got? 2, 3. We've got 4 cards under there, so we now have a willpower of 5. Wow. Let's just put that to the bottom, send to the back. So now our willpower is well and truly ready to do some shriveling. There we go. So we really are in a very strong position now with the Ghoul Priest. He must be, I don't like this at all. This is very nasty. So there we go. But we've lost the ability to defend against retaliation. That's the only problem. That's all right. Okay. So there we go. That's the end of the Mythos phase. So we move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Diana. So what are we going to do here? Well, the first thing I think we're going to do is we're going to do the good old vicious blow. So we are are we better off doing it? What's our fight? So our fight is 4. And with vicious blow we can do 5, 6, we can do lots and lots of fight, can't we? So, because we can do 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Could try and make it 8, but the thing with the vicious blow, see, if we use this, we're just going to do 2 damage, whereas if we do the vicious blow, it allows us to do 3 damage. So I think we're going to do that first. Let's see how we go. So we're going to commit these cards, these 3 cards. I want to keep these cards for other things, but we commit these 3 cards. So that gives us a fight of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 versus 4 against the Ghoul Priest. So this is our first action. And Chaos Bag gives us a -1. There we go. So, ow! That's 3 damage. Wow. Ghoul Priest really, ow. That really hurt. So there we go. We vicious blowed the Ghoul Priest. So I think now for our second action, we're going to shrivel the Ghoul Priest. So We bring out a shriveling. Now we are we're a 5 now, because we have 4 cards underneath us plus the 1 we start with. So we have a 5 willpower. Let's make that a 6 willpower. Let's make that an 8 willpower using the willpower and the wildcard icon. So we are a 5, 6, 7, 8 willpower versus 4. Here we go for the game, and the fastest. We're only in turn 7, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Shrivel. Crad goes silent. Diana Stanley starts weaving strange incantations in front of her. And Chaos Bag says, -2. The Ghoul Priest goes down. And dies. Ladies and gentlemen, we heal a horror. Ladies and gentlemen, there we go. That's it. I can't believe it. We've done it. Fantastic. That was so fast. It's only turn 7. I'm thinking in my mind, did I miss something? Did I not do something quite right? I'll review the video, of course, but that was really, really, really fast. We started a little bit slow, I think. Diana took a couple of turns to get the clues in the study, but then once we got up to the attic, we got those very quickly. Then, of course, we got drawn to the flame down in the cellar, which meant we instantly got both of the clues there. And then it was really just a case of the cancellation effects allowed us to have a reasonably high willpower. It's exactly how Diana's supposed to work. She's supposed to get very powerful towards the end of the scenario, and that's what happened here. I mean, it was good that we had the machete anyway and the vicious blow, but then on top of that, we ended up with a very strong finish with the shriveling. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. What a way to finish. Diana Stanley gets 4 victory points. She's not top of the table because experience points. She's not top of the table because she hasn't managed to kill any other ghouls, and we could have, I suppose, held off for that. But I think the important thing is that she has done the gathering the fastest in a blistering 7 turns. It's hard to imagine anybody doing it faster than that. I mean, it's possible, but faster than 7 turns would be incredible. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I've really enjoyed this. You'll be able to see where Diana is in the league table after this. And next week, we begin the Investigator Games in the Midnight Masks. And so I guess we'll be all the way back again to Roland, I guess, who'll be stepping up in Arkham, running around the streets of Arkham, trying to find cultists here, there, and everywhere. How will he go there? It's a very tough scenario to do. Not a lot of time, lots of things to do, so we'll see how he goes. So thank you very much for watching, and I will very much look forward to playing Midnight Masks next time. Until then, I'm Krabby Terror 8, and goodbye.